turn away from your girl? How can I stay here where others will run and cast the blame? I fan a dying flame. All of my secrets breathe life to my lies. All of my thoughts, like the ocean, they slide along the edge. They linger on the banks in search of a refuge. Darling, don't cry. Give you up. Don't you know why? Give you up. This bird never flies.
Hello, this is Chuck from Above the Basement, Boston Music and Conversation. Special guest co-host David Moore, otherwise known as MALIN, sits in for Ronnie Hirschberg this time around. We hit the road and traveled to the lovely coast of Scituate, Massachusetts. When I picked up the guitar again back in 2005 after my instrument sat in a dusty corner for a few years, there were a few musicians that inspired me to begin playing again, and Ari Hest was one of them. I saw Ari play at Club Passim about a year ago, and after the show, he reluctantly agreed to come on ATB after I cornered him before he left. With a distinctive voice and beautiful melodies, Ari has carved out a diverse career as an independent artist. Several of his songs have appeared on TV and film soundtracks, and in 2014, a collaboration with Judy Collins earned him his first Grammy nomination for their album Silver Skies Blue. With a brand new baby in the mix, he and his wife, the very talented musician Chrissi Poland, have settled in the South Shore of Massachusetts. We sat with him courtesy of Mary Ellen Stoddard, owner of Lucky Finn Café, who let us grab the best table in the house overlooking the harbor in Scituate, Mass. The Lucky Finn Café has authentic espresso drinks, fresh pastries, sandwiches, seasonal offerings, and decadent desserts. It is a very cozy and comfortable place, and the view is outstanding. Go to luckyfincafe.com for the menu and directions. While sipping our espressos, we talked about guitars, collaboration, how we started off in music, and babies. It was a special treat for me to sit with someone who inspired me so much, and we hope you check out his music so you can be inspired yourself at arihest.com. So here is our conversation with Ari Hest, recorded at Lucky Finn Café in Scituate, Massachusetts. So Dave and I are in a band together.
Okay.
We actually used to play a couple of your songs.
Really?
When we first started.
I think Chuck introduced me to
I introduced
you
you because we played Bird Never Flies.
Okay.
And Leaving Me Alone.
Okay. Yeah, leaving her
you
alone.
alone.
Leaving her alone. That's all right. Close enough.
That's what we did. That's what we never got right.
It's been around.
That's great, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And because, and it's funny because I used to live in New York too.
Okay.
And I gave up playing guitar for a long time and then started playing. Martin Sexton was the first guy I started listening to, and it kind of inspired me to start playing.
Inspires everybody to do anything.
And then you're in that list, man, of like, I was starting to just do some researches right when iTunes came out.
Yeah, I think I might have toured with Martin around that time.
Oh, really?
We've not a lot, but maybe 10 shows together or something.
We talked to him a couple summers ago.
Okay.
Right before he did something at Shannon Lou.
Yes, that place is amazing.
In Rockport. Have you played there?
Luckily, I opened it was Judy Collins. I opened for her there.
For Judy Collins. We're going to talk about Judy.
That place is great.
That place is amazing.
Do they have it open when you're playing behind you, the whole backdrop
No,
there?
I forget what the weather was, but they didn't have it open, but it was just a gorgeous room.
Yeah.
Isn't the sunset there?
Yes.
So you can't even keep it open.
Right.
Because the sun's like right in your face.
In everybody's eyes,
yeah. But it's a beautiful place. Have you seen it?
I've seen it. I haven't been in.
That's one of the nicest I've ever seen, really. It's an incredible place.
So anyway, Bird Never Flies, and Leaving Her Alone. Yeah. And I was just listening to, it's funny because I was listening to your stuff on the way up here, the Judy Collins stuff.
Okay.
And Leaving Her Alone came on. I just kept on, for the last half hour, just kept on replaying that one. It's such a great song.
Thank you.
We got to start playing that song again.
I know. And just diving into that particular song, that was one Chuck introduced me to your music through. I'm always thinking as the writer as well, like, are you hearing that sort of the high guitar parts, the acoustic, everything? Are you hearing that full? Do you hear that those hooks in there while you're writing, or
that album, the album that both of those songs are on, was the only album that I worked with a very well-known producer named Mitchell Froome. he had some pretty definite ideas on how to expand on my demo. I mean, obviously the melody was there, the lyric, the chords, but some of the guitar, that little ostinato, that da-da-da-da, like that's actually, I guess the guitarist who played on the record came up with that, and it's a guy that he works with all the time in California.
Right.
All guys that he knew that wound up playing on that
record.
record.
Good for those things and bring them in and make.
Yeah, I mean they're just like, as I remember it, the guitarist, his name is Val McCallum, and he was just off the road with Jackson Browne. He's done a lot of big stuff and a lot of studio sessions. So these are the guys that hear the song once and they find something amazing to play with. Yeah, that was a great experience, that whole making that record with Mitchell. At least the Mitchell part of it was great. The label was not so great.
But parts like that, I think, always take it into that. Maybe like in the U2 Coldplay vein, they just make it seem to be stadium songs. They take them to.
Right, that kind of got a little anthemic at times, although the lyric, doesn't really fit with
right.
Rah, rah, let's go.
And is that why, like, so when you're working in that environment, the producer can bring in those guys who just create those nice hooks and chops, but then is there a part of you feels, well, that's not what I meant for this song to be?
Sure.
And you're struggling with it?
And I have to speak up. And sometimes I haven't spoken up, and I've kind of paid the price when I don't want to listen to some stuff that I have done, and that hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah, but that's all part of your experience.
That's how
on your path.
Figure it out. I know artists who told Mitchell, you know what, I want to use my band no matter what. Again, like he brought an unbelievable band to my album, but the guys that I was touring with up till that point were my guys, and I was 25 years old. I'd been on the road with them for like a year and a half or something, and we all went into it thinking, okay, we're making a record together.
Let's capture this live sound on this.
And then Mitchell heard us play and was like, I like you, I just don't like your band for you.
Ooh.
And it was just a brutal.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
Yeah. And
that's what Dave did to us, by the way. He did his album without us.
But both of those guys. Funny enough, I mean, both of the guys I'm talking about that I used to play with, the bass player wound up playing with Angus and Julia Stone, and has done some pretty big other stuff as well. Passenger, I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
He's in that band. And the drummer's with Tenacious D now.
Oh, really?
And used to play with Pete Yorn also. They're not slouches.
Right. Something he heard or didn't hear.
He just didn't feel it was right for what I was doing, or he just felt like his guys would nail it quicker. I don't know.
That's a tough conversation.
It's really tough, especially for 25-year-olds.
Yeah,
made,
no kidding.
One other real album in his life. I was starstruck. That guy.
Oh, he's bringing in the talent.
That's the guy who produced "Don't Dream It's Over," and a bunch of Los Lobos stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah.
From the minute I got there, I was like, in deference to whatever I said, I know what I'm good at, but I also want to.
But I guess
learn
it's
from you.
in some ways, though, your mind's open and you are open to that stuff, and then only later on can you look back and say, wow, if I could do that again,
yes,
I'd go a different way.
Yeah. I wonder how that stuff would turn out with another band, but that, in the end, that wasn't really the defining reason why that album never really took off. It was more of a label situation that I had 3 different A&R people come on to work on that album with me because the other 2 got fired. So I had first guy say, we want you to do something that's, if you can highlight these songs and make it sound a little more poppy. And then the second guy was like, why don't we go more the folky route? Again, being 25, I was like, all right, I'll try. And maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I was swayed. And by the time the third person came along, it was just such a cluster.
What year was this?
2005. I mean, the album didn't come out for another year after that. And
that's when I'd started at my office job, and it was a couple years after that I started. Who was I listening to? Peter Bradley.
Peter Bradley Adams, sir.
He's actually coming to Passim.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. Yeah. And Martin, and who else was I listening to?
You ever listened to Trapper? Chris Trapper?
Chris Trapper, we just had him
Chris
on.
Stars.
Okay.
Yeah, we had him on. We did a live episode with him at City. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
at City Winery. He's a great guy too.
Yeah.
He's a local guy too. Mm-hmm. Tell me your Jonesy story.
Jonas.
You know Jonas?
Do you know Jonas?
That's a name of a band that I haven't heard in a long time.
He's like a star.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah.
So I was with those guys in DC, and the last job I had in the US with a visa was to move up here, and basically for the first 6 months,
Dave's not from around here.
2000, I was flying back to meet them for shows and stuff like that. And I think it was around that time when Chuck introduced me to their music. I sort of knew your name because were they working with your brother?
Maybe
on the
that
Fresh
might have
Tracks,
been why. Yes,
on the Fresh Tracks thing, and you did some
Fresh
shows
Tracks,
together.
Wow. Yeah. Bringing it way back.
This is your life. Didn't mean to do it happen, but this is what it is.
And was that out of Chicago or where?
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my brother was my manager for 10 years or so, But that was pretty early on, and he wound up going back to Chicago and is out of the music business, but is a business guy that's doing very well. And
Right.
but Fresh Tracks was this company that he used to work for on Lincoln Avenue, I think it was.
And they were doing A&R, or they were like
They
a
were-
label? Or?
You know, it was kind of hard to figure out what they were doing. It was technically, I guess it was like a promotional company for different labels, local labels. But I don't think they ever really figured out what their
Right,
niche was.
right.
And
So
maybe
wait,
that's
you in Genesee when
Not
that
at that
was
time.
happening?
So they
Just after you left?
after I moved up here, then they all quit the day jobs and went out on the road. And I think they got to the Wet Sprocket's old van with 300,000 miles on it, and they welded in captain's chairs to the second row, and the guy wouldn't let them leave the shop without signing a waiver.
Oh my gosh.
And then they went out down to a 4-piece.
Okay, so I ran into you at Passim, and I did what I hate to do, which is like kind of corner you and say, "Come on my show."
You're
But
getting good at that, Chuck.
but it was well, yeah, actually it worked. But so now you're local now.
I'm 2 miles from here,
Yeah, but your wife, she's a musician as well.
There's a good reason
correct?
for that. Yes.
Yes.
So we
And-
normally live in Jersey City. Her name's Chrissi Poland.
Yes,
She is from Marshfield.
she's from Marshfield. Okay,
Her
so that's
whole
right down the street.
Family, right. Her whole family and some extended family are all within like a 10-mile radius of here. So
Mm-hmm.
when we found out we were having a kid, especially the time of year, we were thinking like, okay, this baby's going to come in November or December. Let's go, your family. I don't have a lot of family in New York now.
Okay.
We usually live in Jersey City. We have a lot more help over here.
And it's critical during those first 6 months, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been incredible to have them. I mean, a couple days ago, she was in Tulsa. Right now, she's got a gig basically duetting with Michael Bolton on his tours.
That's soon. It's only been 2 months.
Yeah, I know. It was hard mentally to kind of prepare for that.
Yeah,
after
well,
what she
physically
went
too,
through.
right?
Yeah, yeah. But she's doing it, and it's cool. It's not just like a background singing gig. It's like a real.
With Michael
you know,
Bolton?
She's like duetting, but
That's
she does her
awesome.
own thing too. And we sometimes do shows together.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that City Winery Haymarket show
Yeah,
that I'm
that's
going to
where-
do in April, she's going to open it and probably play a little bit with
neat.
my set too.
Yeah, that's where we did Chris Trapper at Haymarket Lounge,
I got you.
and then we're doing another one at Haymarket Lounge on Thursday night
Okay.
it's like a 20-piece string ensemble called A Far Cry,
Okay.
and then we're doing this rapper dude in March, and so we want to do these more and more.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit more preparation than just showing up at a coffee shop. This is an awesome coffee shop, man. This is right
great.
on the water. I don't know Scituate very well, but I mean we're right
My
on the
first
water.
time down here, yeah.
How long you been in Scituate now?
November. So
Since November. Okay, so
Yeah.
you haven't had the bad winter storms to deal with.
nothing
quite
terrible.
yet.
It's
'Cause they
been
get some serious
manageable.
flooding.
I know. We've gotten lucky so far. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing so bad. Yeah, but we're mostly not leaving the house every day.
Are you on the water?
We're not on the water. We're very close.
Pretty close.
It's too cold to bring the baby out most of the time, or at least we think it is. So
What's the baby's name?
Nova.
Nova.
Yeah.
It's very pretty.
Thanks. So she's been indoors for a large part of her
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, 2 months is nothing.
Was that there was that story that went around about was it the Finns or the Swedes leaving the babies in the boxes outside the coffee shops in the middle of winter? Well, the
Oh,
mom-
right,
the mom's
right.
outside
It was
room.
recently, and people like called the cops on them because it's just normal for them to do that. I mean, it wasn't in the middle of winter.
it's
but-
supposed to be like for their allergies and for everything, for their general
They just
health.
leave 'em outside.
when it's cold
In the winter.
really cold, but they're all bundled up, but they can get some air. But
and
they're getting
someone
really
called the
cold air.
cops, and they're like, "This is what we do in Sweden. What are you doing? What's about?"
Wow.
Leaving
Not
them
going to
outside.
happen in my.
No. Where'd you get your start playing?
I guess it would have been in college because
Where'd you go to school?
For 2 years I was up at Cornell.
Oh, that's right. My daughter's going to be going to Ithaca.
Okay,
Right there.
I think it's
It's
great.
right there.
Great school.
Yeah.
I got started really because I started playing cover songs at house parties.
Yeah.
And some of the party planners on campus would say we should hire this guy to, which is kind of ironic because my music or my style is not party music at all. But at
No,
the
it's-
time I was
it's
trying to
listen
play as
music.
much upbeat.
Yeah.
And the singer songwriter thing was kind of even it's hotter than it was now. I guess like. If you could play Wonderwall and Dave Matthews tunes, you're in good shape.
Right.
I wasn't really that interested in what I was learning in school.
What were you doing in school?
Communication.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what my daughter's going to do.
Okay. Didn't mean it.
It's like, I don't care what she does. As long as she'll do
Yeah.
something, she'll figure it
Well,
out. and,
school's
like-
about the experience anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really doing my own shows at the time, but I guess I wrote my first few songs up there, and then I started a band in New York that started to get a little bit of traction to the point where I thought, okay, this band's starting to get somewhere. We're getting some label attention, and I'm not loving my life up here. I'm not like, it's kind of a heavy frat scene up there, and I wasn't really into it. I applied to NYU to try to finish up there, and did, and commuted from where I grew up in the Bronx to school every day.
So Yankee fan.
Yankee fan,
okay,
but I understand. It's okay. My wife is a Red Sox fan.
Oh.
It's the only thing we're fighting about is what our daughter's going to be. But we're pretty cordial.
You might be on a losing. That might be a losing battle since you're already here.
Yeah.
But I have a friend who's a dead set Yankee fan because his dad was a Yankee fan, even though he grew up in Massachusetts. So. So you can still do it.
Yeah.
It's still possible.
Yeah. So I came back to New York. That band, which was called Synapse. Yeah, we were together until basically the end of college. And it was somewhere around there the band broke up. I was the lead singer, and I wrote most of the material. And one day I just was like, I don't really get this anymore. I'm just going to go off on my own. And started playing coffee shops. And
you busk?
A little. But it was kind of stupid because I didn't really need to. It was more to test out,
to
prove to yourself
education.
you could.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking to get dollars as much as attention. Somewhere closer to, I was like 22 years old. I had some music online, some recordings of me from some of the coffee houses in New York.
MySpace? Or was it then?
It was more like discussion boards from some of the other artists that kind of were singer-songwriters, not necessarily sounded like me, but similar.
Yeah.
The Clarks or Sexton, Jason Mraz. I would be mentioned on those discussion boards as, hey, you should check this guy out if you like Jason. And I got a call from an agent in the upper Midwest, and he said, I think I can book you on college tours if you're interested in doing it. What I would do is I'd book one of these shows in wherever college and play some, weird-looking auditorium for 3 people or something like
really?
that. And then, no, it was fine. It was humbling. It was good.
Yeah.
And then I would try to find a city nearby that I could play a coffee house and make no money.
Okay.
But
just to do one more.
And get the bigger crowd.
And maybe get the kids from the school to come or something like that. And I did that a ton for 2 or 3 years. I was at it, 100 schools a year, and making a living because the schools paid decently.
Yeah.
But again, those shows were generally not that much fun, but they were a way to kind of get going.
And you could do other stuff around it.
And and my brother came on to manage me, and that was kind of the plan at first, was to build that way and use the money from the schools to offset the cost of doing a show where I wouldn't make anything.
Now, did you have an EP by then?
I had really my first album at that point.
Okay, so that's what you were hawking, what you were playing.
Yeah, that would have been like 2001.
Okay,
and was that a collection of songs that you've been playing with the band, or did you take some of those forward and then it got you going? And
I took the ones that were mine from that band, put them on the record, wrote a few more. The album was very unproduced sounding and barely recognizable if you listen to the voice. You probably get that a lot from people you interview. Just the first few recordings don't even sound like me vocally. The writing, you can say that you kind of get where I was starting out from, but it's amazing. I just wasn't myself yet. I was.
You're still 22.
Yeah, I was trying to be Dave Matthews essentially.
I still think of people in their 30s as kids.
Yeah.
But do you think you were like trying to sound like his voice, or how?
I don't think I was intentionally really trying to. I know that I learned to play guitar by listening mostly to him.
Yep.
In high school.
To who? I'm sorry.
To Dave Matthews. I was curious about his style of playing, and I had an ear. I knew I had the ear to pick out what he was doing.
And he was unique. He really stood out at the time, like bringing acoustic guitar back out, and it was still kind of the post-glow of the Eric Clapton Unplugged album, bringing the acoustics back out to the fore again, and he seemed to really jump into a spot and not be predictable 3-chord tricks. But
absolutely.
He was unique when he came out.
He's still, really, nobody really plays quite like him. And I tried, the first few songs I wrote, I really tried to emulate him, but I wasn't even thinking, I want to emulate you. It was just...
Right, it just
I don't get that at all.
Like a heavy influence.
By the way, I don't. I'm not kidding.
Well, by the time that album came out with those songs, I was past it. And that was 4 or 5 years later. I was listening to other stuff, and then I really developed into the voice that I have now. I don't want to know how come. I don't want to hear your sigh. I'm gonna settle for you try. I don't want to break you down or dig up the past. All I wanna do is tear off the cast. Love is not love till I quit asking why. I just wanna go.
I tell you, I mean, the voice is really what kills me, man. It's like you have such an amazing voice. You tell me all the time, like when I write songs, I'm always singing in that low register. I don't have the air behind it for it to carry. So if I sing it in a live, you can't hear me. You just get lost.
The lower you get it,
the lower I get
I mean,
lost.
eventually I get lost too.
And it's not also strong. I can't hit those notes as well as I can if I'm in a little bit of a higher range.
Right.
But your voice is like just that low gravelly. It's so unique. I freaking love it.
That was actually one of the things that Mitchell Froome told me to pay more attention to as I'm writing songs. You know, what key makes the most sense for your voice?
Right.
You know, I noticed that the songs on that record, I remember we changed a couple of keys because he said, you know, this is going to sound better if you bring it up or down, you know.
Yeah.
And he also was a believer that I was relying a little too much on my falsetto to carry a tune. It was a little too pretty. So he said, you actually have like a good like gravitas from the low voice. You should use it more. And that songs like Bird Never Flies, and those are tunes that I really kind of in speaking voice range.
Yeah,
really.
they're in the chest. They're like
exactly. So they're easy. They're actually really easy for me to sing because they're just right there.
So on that same vein, I'm thinking like because you're not a singer in a band, or even when you hear the music, that the guitar and the voice are very integrated.
Yeah.
But if you were out to buy a new guitar tomorrow, do you actually sing with it and play with it and then listen back to see? Because it's not like a Martin Dreadnought might not be for you with a low bass. You might be getting frequency. Just if you're thinking that producers thing.
That's another thing that I just did not think about for years. You know, what guitar makes the most sense for my... Really, what kind of music makes the most sense for my voice?
Yeah.
If you listen to my first... I did 2 albums with Columbia. The Break-In was the second one. The first one was called Someone to Tell.
Okay.
And a lot of those songs are like kind of high-energy pop tunes, pop rock tunes. And the more I listen to that stuff and think about the electric guitars that were kind of blaring...
They're getting in the way of
your
frequencies?
Because my voice is like... fat. It's like it's not Michael McDonald, but it's kind of like in that. You know what I mean?
It's hard to describe.
It doesn't cut through the way like a rock guy. You know. So it's not Chris Cornell.
But as I listen to it and trying to sample sort of the work over the years, it seems like. And have you fallen into it, or is it natural that you're capoing on a lot of songs? But your voice works below it, and then when you hit the upper register, it's almost like that's a self-produced complement, like the three work, the low voice, the guitar is not mid-range, and you can get on top of it as well. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was more of a natural writing enough songs, and you kind of get.
So you find out what works versus planning to do it.
That was more of an unconscious discovery than recognizing, what style I should be doing. If you listen to the stuff I do more recently, it's mostly finger picking and it's leaving more room for the voice to be the forefront. The other thing I started paying attention to is my personality didn't really fit with those pop rock songs. I'm not dancing around on stage. I'm not flashy. My show is straightforward. So the more I sort of put on that hat of pop rock guy, the less I'm me. It took a long time for me to figure that out. At least 5-6 years of doing this, and then finally, this is what my voice is. This is the kind of music I should be doing.
Did it take you a while to figure out what kind of guitar to use? Were you trying out a lot of different kind of guitars to find what worked for you?
At first, I sort of fell into the trap of like the more expensive the guitar, the better it's going to be.
Yeah.
I had an endorsement with Taylor at the time.
I have Taylor's.
And I like Taylor's, but I guess I wasn't paying attention at first to how kind of a broad sound they have compared to like a Gibson. And I have a J50 Gibson that I got during making the album The Break-In with Bird Never Flies and all those songs. That's the guitar I'm using on that album, and it's much more of a sort of fragile sounding. It's thinner. Gibsons and I found that Martins are also pretty good for me as well.
We've gone to that Taylor Roadshow a few times.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, because you think Taylors are one thing, and then of course they do have that dreadnoughty sound as well, and the lows. But I find that fascinating how you can match it, because I always had them as a sort of, they do fit in the mix very well. If you're playing a Taylor guitar in a band, a pop rock band, it's perfect for that. But of course, your eyes get open to them doing a whole lot of other things. Right. But sometimes you get that feeling that they're...
You can go years playing the wrong guitar without even realizing it.
Absolutely.
So I started off with the 614, which was a little bit of more higher range of Taylor, the CE.
Yeah.
And then I got the Grand Auditorium,
Yeah.
the 800. And that's nice, much more boomy. I'm more of a rhythm guitarist
Right.
than anything.
Me too, actually.
I just liked how it carried, and so that fit me. I wanted to talk about Judy Collins.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with Judy Collins.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a little older than you, I think. I was born in '68. But Judy Collins with Both Sides Now, and, do you know Judy
I
Collins?
don't know.
You don't? Okay, so he's from Ireland, so that's not a thing.
It's okay.
But, I mean, so she's as classic as you get for a singer.
Right.
I'm just interested in the story of how you got to be with this
Yeah.
amazing musician singer.
Yeah.
Just tell me the story about how that happened.
It was lucky. I played a festival in New York. She came in to the venue while I was on stage, and backstage she said, I really like what you just did, want to open a show sometime. And then from there the show went well, and she said, how about some more? And we did these shows, and the more we did them, she felt more comfortable with the idea that maybe we could sing something together. I never pushed
On
it.
stage while
Yeah.
you were on tour together.
I didn't push it, but she would tell me early on that she's been listening to my albums and she really likes this song or that song, and saying, we should try to sing together sometime. Eventually culminating in let's write an album together, which was another weird thing because I wrote a song thinking she would sound better singing this song than I would, and I called her and I asked her, like, are you interested in doing this on your next album or something like that? And she said, yeah, but I want to do it with you. Let's write some songs together too while we're at it.
Yeah.
And so we did.
What was it like walking and sitting and writing with Judy Collins?
We wrote all the time in her apartment, which has all this incredible memorabilia all over the place and guitars from the 60s that, like, unbelievable stuff. I just think the more I got to know her, the less the wall was there.
Sure.
We got nominated for Grammy. Went down the red carpet and I'm holding her hand because I'm freaked out, and she's as cool as a
Old
cucumber.
school. Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
She knows what she's doing. She's been there before. Some of the bigger gigs that she's done, she just gets flooded with people afterwards, and I watch her be super kind to everybody. And
Yeah.
she works very hard, writing a lot lately, but warming up her voice for hours before the gig, keeping her body in shape. I mean, she's 80. She's going to be 80. And she's still torn more than I am.
Did you bring her songs and she brought you songs, or did you sit and write together?
I brought her the first couple, and then we sat down together, and, usually the way it would work is I'd bring a music idea, and then we'd sort of flush it out, and then we'd work on the lyric together right then and there.
Did she play on it, or was she just singing?
She just sang on...
She's a guitarist, right?
most-
Isn't that what she mostly is?
Well, she prefers playing guitar, but she's a great piano player.
I bet she is, yeah.
Her dad, I believe, is a classical pianist, and she learned from him, but started to get sort of down on the instrument in her teenage years and said, I want to pick up a guitar and play folk
It's
music.
a little easier to walk around with.
For Judy, being up on stage with me, I think it lights a fire a little bit in her, and she says it to the crowd. She's not used to duetting. She's been doing this for 60 years, and she barely has done any duets. She's psyched about it.
We've been known to bicker, we've been thrown to scream, going at each other till we fizzle out of steam. Aren't you tired of dishing out the bushes and the shore? I choose love, I choose love.
We hide from pain, we criticize, we veil the truth, we patronize to help ourselves traverse the bumpy ride. Beholden to our weary minds, we go great lengths to be unkind. We'd rather circumvent than walk the line.
Now that you have a little girl, you're going to get old really fast.
Getting the grays now.
Really old.
Will it inform your songwriting then, as you're looking at her?
I think it will. Everything she does is amazing, and but I haven't picked up the guitar as much as I've wanted to because honestly, it's just hard to manage her and my dog, who's also kind of a nuts.
That's right. Now,
basically a second kid.
you told the story at Passim. Was he Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
So I just got back from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just there for the first time. I've never been there before.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic island.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful island. And I was so horribly ashamed
Yeah.
and that we totally screwed them over.
Yeah, completely.
I'm like, I'm so sorry. You people are so amazing, and this island is
Well,
so
they're
wonderful.
supposed to be our.
I know.
They're supposed to be
I know.
us.
It's basically pure racism,
awful.
if you ask me. But anyways, you adopted a dog.
Yes.
From
There's
that.
an organization that was started by someone who lives in New York. It's called the Sato Project. It's, dogs down there, a lot of them are called Satos. Satos are pot cakes. That's another term
Are
for
what?
that. Pot cake.
Hot cake.
It's kind of the breed. Pot cake kind of means combination of 5 different things in one. It's a dish that's served down there, like
okay.
a food dish, but they also refer to dogs that way sometimes.
Okay.
'Cause my guy kind of looks like 5 different dogs. You know, they're not treated very well down there, and in the other islands, there's a beach literally called Dead Dog Beach that they go and they try to find these dogs who are not dead yet.
So you were able to adopt this dog. Was this after or before the hurricane?
This was after. I had a friend who had rescued his dog from this organization.
Okay.
We went on the website to find out, like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And we saw that our dog, George, was...
His name is George?
Yeah. He was being flown up to live with a foster family in Jersey. And so we inquired right away. We're like, we'll take him,
Yeah.
you know, like, for good.
Yeah.
And they said, sure. But he's a nut job. I mean, he's like, he's 25 pounds or something, so he's just
But
like...
then I thought you named him something else, or like maybe
George
there's a-
Harrison.
But there was like a song or
Harrison.
something you wrote about.
Well, there's a song called Sato. I don't say his name in the song, but
okay.
I called it, yeah. Yeah.
Assuming then
That
that's
was
your
around.
favorite Beatle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. It's going to be him or Paul, I would say. But I think George's personality, you know, I would like to sit down and eat with him more than anybody else.
I always felt that that's who I would fall in line with. And there's a picture of him. It's one of those the teenagers in the bedrooms picture, but he's playing a Hofner President, and that's the guitar my dad has.
Okay, all right.
So I'm like, and he kind of looks like my dad in some pictures, and I always feel that way for George Harrison more than
Right.
it is. It's the strangest thing.
Do you know the Fab Four? Have you heard of them?
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
So that band hires Chrissi, my wife, once in a while to sing backgrounds on some of
Okay.
their gigs.
They're called the
Low-
Fab Four.
Fab Four, amazing Beatles cover band.
Okay.
So Chrissi and I both in the last couple of years got hired to sing like a Lennon tribute night and George Harrison tribute night.
Have you done something with your wife as far as
We
music is
have
concerned?
a band that we started with one of the guys from Fab Four actually, called the Bluebirds of Paradise. The guitar playing is kind of Brazilian sounding, a little bossa sounding.
Okay.
I'm trying to play like that a little bit, which also fits my voice pretty well.
Yeah.
And the bass player from Fab Four, his name is Will Lee. He's a famous bass player.
Will Lee.
He is the producer of the stuff that we've done. So
Okay.
we rarely have played shows. We're going to do some of that stuff in the City Winery show, I'm sure.
Are you recording up here?
At the moment, no. I mean, I have a little setup at home, but I'm still in the baby mode more than anything else.
You got time.
Yeah.
Are you sleeping through the night? Is she sleeping?
Not through the night. We're taking turns doing the over the night feedings. And,
Girls are awesome. I mean, he's a boy, and I have friends who have little boys.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what to do with little boys. I grew up in a house full of girls.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the
Sure,
only
with your
brother
sisters, yeah,
with
yeah,
three
yeah.
sisters.
Right.
And
now you have 2
Now I have
daughters.
2 girls. So I have no clue what to do. Like when little boys run in the room, I'm
Yeah,
like, who are these animals?
I'd never really thought too much about boy or girl, but
Yeah.
I always kind of thought, because I was 3 boys and a girl growing up, and
Oh, yeah, well,
I
that's
always
different.
thought that you
You're
kind of
brothers.
assume you're going to have a boy as soon as you find it's a girl, and then when you see her for the first time, when the girl is handed to you, I'm just like, oh, it just doesn't matter. It's like
Well, that's
this
terrifying no
if
matter
this is
what
the
it
only
is.
one ever. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
perfect. It's just amazing.
This was actually a while ago, but you created that 52
yes.
new song every week for a year.
Yeah, that was right after the Break-In, the album that you guys were talking about.
How'd that go? Did you enjoy doing that? Or was it like
That's a
was it
that's a
like-
good question.
Was it like was it just like an exercise for you to just write and you didn't?
It was an exercise. It was my way of trying to stick out among a sea of singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
I just left Columbia. I had a bunch of songs that were barely written that I knew I wanted to finish, but I didn't want them to own any part of them. So it was the right time to finish them up. And my brother and I, he was starting to get web savvy, so he created a website specifically for that week. I could say what I'm writing about, give a little insight as to why I wrote it, get some comments from people, and we set up a subscription service, essentially $20, and you hear all the songs for the whole year. I email them out every
you were
Monday.
before your time there. That's
It was a good.
that's pretty early.
Yeah.
To do that kind of
It
situation.
was a good thing for me to do for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
I did burn out at times.
52?
And then I kind of
That's a
got
lot of
back into
songs
it.
to write.
Yeah. The hardest time was the middle, actually. It was, after I had kind of gone through the some of the stuff that, like I said, was partially written before.
Yeah.
After, once we got to like May or June.
And was the May or June period when you found yourself recycling chord progressions or lyrics, or?
It wasn't so much recycling as it was just not feeling that confident in the initial idea. What drives me to finish a song is when the first idea is, I'm still hearing it days later. To start, a song on a Tuesday, let's say, knowing that it has to be done by the next Monday, if that idea on Tuesday doesn't stick with me for a couple of days, I know I'm going to write a piece of crap, but I had to kind of put it out there anyway because I'm tied to this thing. But some of the songs that came out of it were good, and
it's interesting because like when I do write songs, I can sometimes get into a thing where they all sound the same. Well, when we met, he's like, Chuck, can you please stop writing the songs at 6/8? And I was listening to a lot of David Gray. And and I don't even realize I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So
That's the way it is.
What do you do to get out of that? Are you trying to find new things, or do you go back to old standards?
I'm trying to find new rhythms. That's the
rhythms.
Rhythms and the capo helps, and the changing the tuning of the guitar helps. I have to get out of the normal tuning sometimes because I just can't figure out what to do that's interesting to my ear.
I totally agree with the rhythms, and that's why I was freaking playing everything in 6/8.
Right.
I needed to get something else in my head to get it out.
But also your covers, like at the time when you were bringing covers to the band, like
they were all David Gray. That's right.
Right.
Do you know Justin Curry of Delamitri?
Oh yeah, sure.
He did a lot of those alternate tunings, capo.
Yeah, sure. What was that tune that I love? Tell Her This, I think it was called.
Yeah,
Oh, man,
yeah.
that song kills me.
What are you listening to now?
I was turned on to somebody that I should have known about a while ago called Kim Taylor. She's from Florida, but she was in New York for a while and Boston, I think. Really good. Patty Griffin, a lot of her recently. I'm not going out there and looking for a lot of new stuff, unfortunately. It's more what people bring to me and say, you should really check this out. Yeah. And then I will often get into it and go on a tangent.
I guess then going back to Delamitri, Tell Her This.
Yeah.
To me, that's one of those songs you hear and just wish you could have written it. And
Sure.
you want to get inside it, work it out, learn it.
Yep.
Is that one of the ones on your list of that sort of, when you hear them, you're like, it seems like it's simple at first, it's right there, but then I always go back to that one. Like if there's a song I wish I could have written, that same song is one of those.
Yeah, certainly one of the songs I wish I had written. It's a beautiful song, and his voice is just amazing.
There's something, he's got like some extra X factor going on. It's just, it's unbelievable.
You do that to me, Dave.
I do that to you.
It's interesting with him. I feel like when I hear his voice, I feel like he could do the rock thing with that. His voice does kind of cut through, but it also works with the acoustic stuff.
Their
too.
first album was huge. When I was at college, it was all over. They had just, I think, a year or two before, they were still a college band in Scotland.
Right.
I went to college in Scotland.
Right.
They were just still floating around there, pretty huge.
Roll to Me was a huge hit here.
Yeah, I sense that he doesn't like that, but it's got the cool mix. It's the whole.
That's so common,
Yeah.
Duncan Sheik, I know him. We're acquaintances, and he doesn't play Barely Breathing. He doesn't.
I don't blame him.
He doesn't. I mean,
it's a great song, and I don't mind hearing it. But if I was him,
I remember talking to Martin Sexton about that too. And do you play what your fans want you to play, or do you play what you want to play? And he was more of a play what you want to play. But I've heard it the other way too from some respected, people too. So.
But I'm really glad we got to finally get a chance.
Me
to do
too.
this.
Me too, man. This is real cool. When I'm struggling to believe, somehow I need you by my side. When I'm sinking down a hole, begin to lose control, you slow me down, my little Sato. Everybody wants to know you. Doesn't matter where we go, you steal the show. They start to reach for you, forget where they're headed to. You turn them around, my little Sato. Well, I may ever rescue you, but the opposite is far more true. And I hope that somehow you see all the difference you made in me. I like to watch you dream. I wonder what you see and where you are.
Are you out of harm's way? Or have you gone astray? Am I by your side, my little Sato? And we can walk around the hood, wander off into the woods if you say so. Oh, to think there was a time you weren't in my life. Where would I be now without my Sato? Well, my house needs a real good clean. Golden hairs all over my blue jeans, but I'll gladly pick up after you, 'cause you do the same when I am blue. My little Sato. My little Sato. My little Sato. Stay, I could have chosen to stay. At least the world wouldn't look so gray. Here is an empty room filled with an empty man who dreams of her, whether or not I want to. I laugh only to forget. And if the answer was in these words, we can move on from this. Yeah, there's nothing so cruel as fighting through these days, tied to no rules, leaving her alone. Leaving her alone. Yeah, into the unknown. I'm leaving her alone. Brave, what does it mean to be brave? Does it mean that we're gonna have to behave? Or should we weather the storm again and never again say when? Is it our minds that warp reality? Or is it our love that just wanna let it be? I'm leaving her alone. I'm leaving her alone. Yeah, into the unknown. I'm leaving her alone. just fighting through these days, tied to no rules, not knowing if it pays. I'ma leave it all alone. I'll leave it all alone. Yeah, into the unknown. I'll leave it alone. Oh, I'll leave it alone.
We would like to thank Mary Ellen Stoddard and all the kind people at Lucky Finn Café in Scituate, Massachusetts, especially Aaron and Brianna, for taking care of us, welcoming us, and letting us in to record this episode. Again, you can find out more at luckyfincafe.com. We'd also like to thank Ari Hest for putting up with all our emails and taking the time to talk with us. He has a show coming up at City Winery in Boston on April 5th, 2019, and you can purchase tickets and also get his music at arihest.com. Please go to abovethebasement.com, where you can join us on Patreon, sign up for our newsletter, listen and subscribe to our podcast, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and look at all the nice pictures we post on Instagram. We are everywhere. On behalf of David, Ronnie, and myself, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, and remember, Boston music, like its history, is unique. How would you like to join us in creating great conversations that inspire and connect? Patreon has a membership platform that provides a way for creators like us to build relationships and provide exclusive experiences to subscribers or patrons. We have been self-financed since we got off the ground in June of 2016, but in order to continue to fully invest all we can in each episode, we need your patronage. For more information, please go to patreon.com/abovethebasement.